There's a whole lot to unpack. Kyler Staley from the Hoosier.com with us right now. Kyler, I just mentioned Trent Sisley and Jalen Harrelson already rescheduling visits to IU. That has to be a gigantic boost of confidence. And as a matter of fact, Jalen Harrelson has rescheduled 2 visits to Indiana for North Carolina and for Hoosier Hysteria. That's got to be a big boost to Indiana recruiting.
Right, and it's still early, with the 2025s, but it is the right step right now for those guys. Both of them scheduling visits for Hoosier Hysteria plus the North Carolina game. I mean, that's 2 big atmospheres for both of them to be a part of. And I am positive there's going to be a lot more visits at that North Carolina game and Hoosier Hysteria. But for those guys, Indiana's doing all the right things that they can possibly do right now.
Yeah, but what's it mean getting a return visit? These guys are young, like you said. They're going to be sophomores, but Indiana has not really laid into the top Indiana talent here of late, and it's kind of like the 24 class was not that big, and the 25 was the first big class. They seem to have really set their sights there and have dug their heels in and are doing pretty well in that class.
Right, and it pretty much sets the base, what they need to do. It's like I said, it's still really early in the process, these 2025s, but for them to go ahead and already schedule 2 return visits, so they'll have a total of 3 visits before they even get, into the basketball season for their sophomore year. I mean, that's huge, and you'd have to expect that there's going to be a lot more visits, official, more unofficial visits moving forward with those guys. I mean, you can say Indiana, like, they had missed out on the top talent and everything. Xavier Booker, that was going to be hard to get, from the start. Once he kind of had that kind of lackluster high school season, had that big summer, it was kind of too late for Indiana. The 2024 class, they've got, they extended the offer to Flory Badunga. That's a guy to watch for. He's kind of in that second tier right now as far as, targets for the 2024 class, but they are making it a point that they want both Sisley and Harrelson for these 25s, and they are building that strong relationship very early on.
Absolutely. Charlie, when you were getting recruited, what did you get to come to any events at Indiana, or was it just normal recruiting trips? Because I know, first of all, that was a different time. That was during Bob Knight. So a lot of differences there.
Yeah, great question. It was I came through what now, we call the Hoosier Hysteria. I came to Midnight Madness basketball.
What did that do for you?
And that was
did that send a message to you? What was it like experiencing that?
Yeah. I mean, that was different. Here was a practice, and you have, thousands of people watching a practice. I mean, I get goosebumps just think about it. And I can only imagine when you got young players. First of all, local players that are really good in the area of Indiana. They're coming to watch Hoosier Hysteria 1, and then coming to watch a perennial national game like against UNC. I mean, they're gonna be hooked. They're gonna be hooked on Hoosiers, man. They're gonna be hooked on Phonics, right? That atmosphere is what they want. I mean, it's what it's about, right? And I can tell you now, I can only imagine that if they've already set up next steps for next visit, that means that first visit went extremely well to where those guys can see themselves being there. They can place themselves there in 2025. But, because I remember Jared Jeffries doing the same thing. Jared used to always be in our locker room, unofficially, officially, whatever it was, because he was close. And that's a relationship, proximity, as far as being right there. So that's a good sign, I'd say, for us as Hoosiers.
What did that do for your recruiting? Because the one difference is those guys have not seen a lot, if any, success for Indiana to achieve. Last year was a little bit of a turnaround, but they've seen Indiana under Archie Miller, these recruits that are growing up. So it's a different viewpoint than you had. I don't know how much that impacted your recruiting when you went to Hoosier Hysteria and saw that.
Right.
and not even being from Indiana. These guys are from the state of Indiana, but I don't know that they put a lot of. They've been watched Indiana a lot. There's not been a reason to watch Indiana a lot if you weren't a fan.
Yeah, I hear that, and and one of the things that really sold me on Indiana was the coaching second, the players first. I don't know if they have access to the players, but it was the players that I really, when I was in that locker room, I felt I could see myself being here and enjoying my time, learning how to learn it, like and growing. That's what sold me. Coaching staff was second to none. I mean, let's just put it that way.
And
Ron Staley, so damn knowledge.
And Kyler, that seems to be what this staff is selling to these guys. It doesn't matter where these guys come from, Indiana or out of state. This team seems to be bonding, and the program seems to be bonding, more importantly, as they rise in talent.
Right, and I mentioned this multiple times before. Woodson and staff, they're going to go out and they're going to get the best players. They're not going to stick, in the state unless they have to. Harrelson and Sicily, you have to. In a way, you can't let those guys go. You could have said the same thing about Xavier Booker, but like just mentioned before, that was going to be hard to beat because it was just so late in the game. But this staff has just built an incredible atmosphere with only about a year together. I mean, I saw it in the press conference room and everything like that. It was just, a breath of fresh air, like, being in there. It was like, a brand new light was put onto the whole, the whole organization, the whole program. The staff really bonds together. They like to, go back and forth with one another. They like to, have fun with the players and, all the teammates, they generally like each other. You don't hear whole lot of locker room issues with these guys. But, I mean, that's what they're selling. That's what they're selling. You're going to come in. You're going to be like a family. These teammates are your brothers.
Flory Badunga is one that he is from the 24 class, from that weaker class. But, man, oh, man, he is a top end recruit. I don't know if Indiana can make enough inroads with him, but boy, oh boy, he is, by the time he leaves school, he is going to be a very, very, very coveted player.
Right. And then, him coming in, there was a lot of the talk, like we mentioned before, like he was connected to one coach, with his Indiana Elite program, kind of going to like there was a school that he was destined to go to. I don't think that's the case anymore because you wouldn't have seen Purdue or Indiana offer him. Right now, his recruitment still remains a mystery, and it's probably going to remain a mystery until the very end. It's kind of hard to gauge where he's going just because of that language barrier and things like that, and trying to, reach out to him and stuff. And this is all brand new to him. He's only been playing basketball for about 3 or 4 years at this point. But yeah, by far, he's the best player in the state when it comes to the 2024 class. And then that 2024 class, you get to the top 10, and there's just this big drop off right now as far as other guys that Indiana's looking at. They're also looking at Cannon Catchings. That is part of that class. He's going to be in that top 10 before too long. But yeah, the 2024 class, they're going to be looking elsewhere. They're going to be looking at Liam McNeely, Derek Queen, those type of guys from Montverde. So expect a lot of out-of-state recruiting from the 2024 class.
Yeah, and Liam McNeely is a kid that's mentioned, Charlie, who originally from Texas. And I was like, well, Indiana doesn't really have a shot because every time I would see him or his recruiting, it was just Texas related. I'd see him play, Baylor coaches all around him. But now he's going to Montverde Academy down there in Montverde, Florida, where Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Raynaud, current Indiana players, are from Indiana and they're recruiting KJ Evans and Derek Queen. So they have a nice relationship set up there. And you've got former players that will be able to talk to him as well. So they're getting pipelines very, very important, especially in this day and age with recruiting. And Indiana is doing a hell of a job with that.
Yeah, and Kyle, you said it. It's the culture, man. And that's, win, lose, or draw. People want to be a part of a winning program. And I know this may be like a paradox, but sometimes winning is not always measured by winning the national championship or winning the Big Ten. It's winning for life for a lot of these guys. And they see value in a coaching staff like Coach Woodson's put together. They see value in the players that are in the locker room And Kyler, you said it. If you see everybody's loose and they have the room, I have room to go back and forth with you, and we understand because again, we are like a family. That's now a winning combination. It's not I speak, you listen. I say, you do. No, we all have an opportunity to contribute to this thing we're trying to build, which is to win for life. So that's what these players see. And that to me is more valuable than anything else as a player, as a former player.
Kyler?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's just, it's just amazing to see what the culture, what Woodson's already built in his short time there, really changed that program around of Archie Miller. But he's going to build that culture, and I think, when he's gone, when the next coach is in, they're going to already have an established culture for that next guy.
Right. Another thing, too, I want to just throw out there is, you got to keep in mind his tenure as not only an NBA player, but also an NBA coach. And I got to think that's a big attraction for a lot of these players because there's a blueprint. There's a phone call. I mean, it's really a phone call. The kid, you can play, that's a phone call. Also, you got to keep in mind, he was a dog as a college player. He was a great college player. So he has a blueprint of that too. So you rarely get that. Not saying every coach has to be a former player, but you rarely get that trifecta of being a phenomenal college player, a phenomenal NBA player for over 11 years, and a phenomenal coach for 30 years at that NBA level. You can't, that combination is okay. What player would not want to play for him?
Exactly. It's a wealth of knowledge, and it's not just the knowledge. It's the connections. It's the connections.
It's the relationship.
It is immense.
Yes.
But everything has to work for everybody. There's different reasons for everybody. Everyone picks where they go for different reasons. So, but Indiana's in great shape. And as far as reestablishing statewide recruiting, I think they're going to do that with Jalen Harrelson and Sicily and guys like that. But they're not going to be. They're going to be a nationally recruited team. They're going to have the best talent. If some of that best talent is from Indiana, those are the guys they're going to recruit, like Sicily and Harrelson. And if not, they're going to wherever they are. If they're at Montverde Academy, that's where they're going to recruit. But to be a winner on the national stage today, as you know, Charlie and Kyler both, you look at Duke. They don't play. How many of the players on their team are from North Carolina? Same with North Carolina. Same with Kentucky. Same with Kansas. Any of those programs, I promise you, they will always all have less than what Indiana will have as players from Indiana, and Purdue even more so because they're not as much of a nationally recruiting program, I don't think. But that's just my take on that.
That's not even an argument. Like, you look at a Duke roster, nobody's from North Carolina. Rarely, right? With respect to saying that's not an argument, but that's been a tradition that, they've always had on that scale. It's always been like a national, kind of recruiting thing. And I think with us, if I can speak on this, you guys speak better. I think when you had us in our heyday, it was a lot of the Todd Learys, the Pets, Grahams, a lot of the great players of the state of Indiana stayed home, right? So I think that's what I hear more than anything at that outset.
Clint or Kyler, what's up next for you, man?
So right now, obviously, we're keeping track of all the recruiting updates. Still waiting to see what Arlington Page is going to do. Committing. We're kind of digging into the 2024 class. Also looking ahead for the upcoming season. Right now, I'm working on a player-by-player preview of the upcoming season and what to expect out of them. So that's something that we're going to be doing weekly. And then other than that, we've got a ton of football content up at thehoosier.com, and then a ton of recruiting updates. So, be sure to always be on the lookout for those.